on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Kevin Jackwitz. This is the Kaged Review, and this is my review for Spider-Man Homecoming. Directed by John Watts, we have Tom Holland, who was introduced as Spider-Man in Captain America Civil War, reprising his role. This is the 6th iteration of a main feature film with Spider-Man, the first one that is a combination of Sony and Marvel Studios. You have Robert Downey Jr. also reprising his role as Tony Stark, Iron Man. Marissa Tomei comes in as Aunt May Parker. Jon Favreau comes in as Happy Hogan again. Gwyneth Paltrow plays Pepper Potts. She has a very small role. And then you have an introduction to a lot of the school friends for Peter Parker. Laura Harrier plays Liz. Very important role, and we'll get into that in a second. Zendaya plays Michelle. Donald Glover plays Aaron Davis, which is just a street thug. You have best friend for Peter Parker, Ned, played by Jacob Batalon. Michael Keaton plays Adrian Toomes, the Vulture, and I'm very, very excited about this because I have a bunch of comics, and one of my favorites is a Spider-Man 2099, where it is the return of Vulture. You have Bokeem Woodbine as Herman Schultz, the Shocker, and there's actually two versions of Shocker in this. So very, very cool. You get several Spider-Man villains in like short supply. Like they have one guy who's kind of like making weapons for the Vulture, who is supposed to be the Tinkerer. So that's cool. But one thing I really like about this movie is the approach. We've had the introduction of how Spider-Man became Spider-Man. We've seen it more than once. We don't need to see it again. We've seen Uncle Ben die in two different variations of the movie. We don't need to see it again. And so this wasn't that. This was Peter Parker already as Spider-Man, but still the high school student trying to find himself while trying to do the right thing, not only as a person, but as a superhero. And I really, really liked that. This was much more of a character-driven movie. And ironically, that actually creates, I think, one of the better fleshed out villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is Michael Keaton's version of Adrian Toomes, Vulture. This is a guy you find out right at the beginning of the movie. He's got this big contract to do cleanup after the first Avengers movie. All that destruction in New York. These guys are getting paid massive amounts of money to clean it all up. And so he actually spends a lot of money thinking that he's going to make a lot of money. But then the government comes in and shuts him down. And he's no longer able to, and he spent all this money on this project. The government just like, nope, sorry, you lost your money. And so, of course, he gets jaded and decides that he's going to go to government facilities and grab this alien weapon supply and make weapons out of it anyway. And so that's what happens. And that's how you become the Vulture. And you kind of see the disgruntled guy coming through. And it was really cool the way they did it. Peter Parker. I love this. First of all, I've never really, really liked a Spider-Man movie. And that's not really because of the actors involved. It's just because of the way they've been. And honestly, you know, it's hard to pull off a high school student when you're 35. Let's be real. And so Tom Holland looks like a high school student. He looks young, and that's Spider-Man. He's high school. I mean, come on. And he deals with high school stuff, you know, like homecoming. It's all, you know, leading up to a homecoming dance, which is where you get Liz, played by Laura Harrier. He really likes her. He's got this big crush on her. But of course, he's really awkward. And plus, she's Spider-Man. And so he's constantly going out and trying to help people and disappearing. And so he finally asks her out. And he goes to her house to pick her up for prom. And he's already had plenty of interaction with the Vulture. And boom, Michael Keaton opens the door. And Michael Keaton... Adrian Toomes doesn't know Peter Parker, but Peter Parker has seen Adrian Toomes' face. So, you know, he's really taken aback, and instantly you realize this is Liz's father, which really threw you off because Liz the character she's a mixed girl, but she's a little bit darker skin. You know, she certainly doesn't look Caucasian. And so when Michael Keaton answers the door, you're like, oh, dude, that's crazy. And so, you know, of course, he comes in, he meets the mother, who, of course, is the black woman. And it's very, very cool the way they did that. Definitely threw you a curveball, which I really liked. And there's a great, great, great scene where Adrian Toomes is driving Liz and Peter Parker to Homecoming, and they're having a conversation about, like, Peter Parker. And, you know, it seems like every time that Peter's gone, Spider-Man shows up. And you can see Adrian Toomes piecing it together in his mind. And then he sends Liz into the school, and he's like, I got to have the man-to-man conversation with Peter real quick. And he pulls out a Glock, and he puts it on the armrest of the passenger seat, and he's like, so does she know? And it leads into a great conversation between Adrian and Peter. So it was really, really phenomenal the way they did it. But a lot of this was not as fast-paced and was not as action-packed as you've seen other Spider-Man movies. And for good cause. I mean, you're building up the relationships here, and I really actually love the way they did it. Tom Holland is a great, great actor. But it does lead to a great face-off between Vulture and Spider-Man, where Peter Parker goes and follows Vulture to this warehouse, and Vulture uses his Vulture suit like he's just the man sitting at a desk. And he uses the Vulture suit to take out these pillars around Spider-Man, and the whole roof collapses on him. And it was a really great scene where, you know, Peter Parker, he's still a kid. He's freaking out, he's crying, you know, and there's plenty of emotion displayed by Tom Holland during that scene, and I really loved it. I give Tom Holland all the credit in the world. The guy is just great. So he eventually, you know, gets the inner strength to push this roof off of him. And of course, he finally takes out the Vulture. Really, really cool, though. I love parts of this movie that were just simplistic, though. Like, you had his moment with Captain America Civil War, where he's fighting with the Avengers. It's this great moment, and they actually start the movie with kind of like a video vlog that he was making that, of course, he wasn't supposed to show anybody. But you could just see how excited he was. And then Iron Man said he'd call him if he needs him again. And then time goes by, and he never gets called back. And so he wants to be Spider-Man, you know. He wants to be in that superhero life. And, you know, they want him to go to school, get his education, be a kid. And he just feels like there's more that he can do. And, of course, he's always trying to get into stuff he shouldn't, biting off a little more than he can chew, which is how he found the Vulture. And so, you know, there were a couple of times when he was chasing after the Vulture and needed help from Iron Man. And so, you know, like one instance, the first meeting, he was trying to stop the Vulture from robbing some of these alien weapons. And so Vulture picks him up really high and just drops him. And he winds up falling into a lake with a parachute wrapped around him because it didn't deploy the way it was supposed to. And so Iron Man had to use one of his suits to come save Peter Parker. And then Peter Parker goes to Adrian Toomes was making a deal on a barge. And so things go wrong. There's a fight between Peter Parker and Vulture. And a weapon that Vulture uses splits this barge in half. And so you see in the trailers, you know, Peter Parker trying to hold the barge together, and Iron Man has to come save his ass again. And Iron Man's really pissed off about it. He's like, you know, people could have died. That's on you. And if you died, I feel like that's on me. And he's like, you know, it's not the suit makes the man. It's the man that makes the suit. And they kind of repeat that a couple of times in the movie. But I just love how they did that. I love how it was just this, you know, kid that, you know, he's excited and he wants to do more and he wants to be more. But he doesn't understand that he also needs to be a kid. He also needs to go to school and get his education. You know, you can't just jump into this hero life. And so I love the way they did it. I really do. And like I said, the chemistry with Tom Holland and Michael Keaton was great. Michael Keaton, when he was in the car, he just Michael Keaton the hell out of that. He's such a good actor, dude. He really is. Absolutely loved it. So, ladies and gentlemen, obviously I'm pretty big on the movie. You did get a mid-credit scene where, excuse me, Adrian Toomes, he's in jail, and this guy comes up to him with a scorpion tattoo on his neck, so you think Scorpion. You've already got Vulture, you've got Shocker, you've got Tinkerer, and now you've got Scorpion. So maybe they're, working up to the Sinister Six or something like that. That would be very, very cool. But yeah, there's a scene where Scorpion asks Toomes if he actually knows who Spider-Man is, and he's like, if I did, he'd already be dead. Now that could be because earlier in the movie he saved his daughter's life, and then during the end fight he saved Toomes' life, or it could be because Toomes said if he ever betrayed Toomes again, he was going to kill him and everybody he loves. So you never know. But then you get an end credit scene that was very, very cool too. After all the credits are done, you get Captain America. He'd been doing like government PSAs and stuff where he comes on the screen and he's talking about the importance of gym class or whatever. And there was a great clip where the gym teacher was saying, I think he's wanted by the government or something now, but it was pretty funny. So at the end of the movie, Captain America comes on the screen and he's like talking to the audience. It's like, I'm here to talk to you today about something important. Patience. Like when you wait so long for something and it just doesn't amount to what you think it would or something like that. And it was absolutely fucking hilarious. I loved it. Great. So Spider-Man Homecoming, very fun movie. Definitely slower pace, but that's not a bad thing. I appreciate, trying to get into the characters that they did. And I thought it paid off. So, very happy with it. 8.5 out of 10. That's where I'm at. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. My name is Kevin Jackowitz. Kaged Nation, out.